Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's training session on building construction and design. We are letting all the participants get into the room, so we will ask you to patiently wait for a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. I think we are ready to go. Good morning again to everybody. Welcome to today's training session organized by Sicindustria, the EU SME Centre, Enterprise Europe Network, and the Guild of Architects of Palermo. Today's session is going to be opened by Maria Gabriela Pantanella, who is an architect and also counselor at the Guild of Architects of Palermo. Maria Gabriela, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Maria Gabriela Pantalena, and I'm an architect and a counselor of the Order of Architects of Palermo. I'm happy to give you a warm greeting, also on behalf of the Order of Architects of Palermo and its president, Gualtiero Parlato. I wish to thank the EU SME Centre and Sicindustria, partners of Enterprise Europe Network, for the organization of this joint event that will give the opportunity to gain an important knowledge on the business environment in China for Italian architects and professionals. To welcome this important day dedicated to the modalities and opportunity of work in China for Italian architects. I take this opportunity to greet all those present and to thank all those who have allowed this meeting. The Order of Architects of Palermo has always been attentive to the issues related to our work. This meeting, together with the speakers who will follow after me, represents a favorable opportunity both to know the technical labor market in China and to create a network of contacts necessary to face a challenging and yet fascinating country like China. So I hope that this webinar will be useful for my colleagues and will lead to increase the relations between Italian and China's architectural world. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you very much, Maria Gabriela. Now we also have Giada Platania, a representative of Sicindustria today and also responsible for the EEN network.
Thank you, Laura. Welcome, everybody. And hello, Massimo, Maria Gabriela. Today, I'm here to represent Enterprise Europe Network, which is the network for internationalization, research, and innovation created by the European Commission in 2008 to support companies. And for companies, I also mean professionals, architects, engineers, and builders to grow internationally. And today we are talking about a very challenging and very interesting country such as China. And we have this wonderful key speaker as Massimo Bagnaschi, who's, by the way, also an Italian. So he knows very well the Italian environment and the Chinese environment. So he will be able to talk about this sector in very much in depth. And after this event, all the participants will have the chance to ask for more information. Even during this event, you have the chat, you can use it. As Enterprise Europe Network partners, we offer a lot of services for free to all the SMEs who want to grow internationally, from events like this one, so workshops aimed at enhancing the competencies and skills of SMEs, but we also provide a lot of other services like organization of missions, organization of B2B events, and most of all, we support companies in the search for partners. So you can contact us and we can help you finding the right partners. Or if you have some specific questions, today we're talking about China, but the network covers more than 65 countries, where I think it's an open network. So it's not just about Europe, but it's about the world. It's the largest network in support of internationalization in the world. And we cover about 69, 70 countries. So for any kind of questions, support related to the countries of your interest, you can contact me or Laura Velasco from Enterprise Europe Network, and we'll be happy to reply to you and support you. Thank you, Laura. I leave you the floor.
Thank you very much, Chiara. Welcome again to all the participants. Before we leave the floor to Massimo Bagnasco, today's speaker, I would like to introduce briefly the EU SME Centre for those who have never heard about us. The EU SME Centre is a European Union funded initiative started in 2010, created with the idea of helping European SMEs entering or interested in entering the Chinese market. We are currently at the third phase, which is running until March 22. And we are an official member of the EEN network, as Chiara stated. We have offices located in Beijing, and we are implemented by 4 chambers of commerce and 1 business council that you can see at the bottom of the page. We mainly offer 4 different services. The first one is called the Knowledge Center. On our website, you can find an online library with over 200 market information, including market reports, guidelines, case studies, and articles. Some of them are really focused on specific sectors, for instance, construction or artificial intelligence, or for example, the food and beverage sector in China, which is quite important. Some of them have a more transversal approach, and they cover topics such as e-commerce, digital marketing, HR, or how to work with Chinese clients. The second service is called the Advice Center, and here I would like to remark 2 main services. The first one is called the self-diagnosis tool. This is a very newly feature that we have implemented recently this year. It's about quizzes, 1 general quiz and 4 specific ones focused on business environment, product development, financing, and HR. That allows participants to understand and assess the level of readiness towards the Chinese market. It only takes 10 minutes for the general quiz and 5 minutes for the specific ones. And at the end, the participants get an evaluation on how far they are from getting ready into the Chinese market. We obviously make reference to market reports and to cooperation with other China projects, such as the China IP SME Help Desk. The second service within the Advice Center is Ask the Expert. This is a 1-to-1 confidential and consultation service available for European SMEs and business support organizations. Here you can submit questions of any kind, and our experts will be replying to them within 2 to 3 working days. The third service is the training center. Today is the best example of what we are doing in this field. We organize tailor-made trainings based on the needs of the European business support organizations and ultimately of SMEs. Topics are very varied. Today it's building construction. We focused obviously on cutting-edge topics and up-to-date information of the market. And last but not least, we have an advocacy platform where we try to give voice to the concerns and requests of European businesses operating or willing to operate in China. The Interchamber SME working groups provide up-to-date information on regulatory, economic, and social changes that happen in the Chinese landscape. Last but not least, I would like to share here some of our upcoming events. On May 7th, tomorrow, we have an event on Hainan Free Trade Port and opportunities for the logistics sector. This event is online, but it's also offline in China, where fortunately they are able to meet. On May 11th, we have an event on China eco-design standardization, similarities and differences between EU and China. On the 21st of May, we have an event on cross-border e-commerce and the role of the cross-border e-commerce pilot zones. And on May 26th, we have an event on knowing your Chinese partner. We invite you to check our website and to register to any of these events, which are complimentary. And now, without further ado, I would like to leave the floor to today's speaker. Massimo Bagnasco is the Vice President of the European Chambers of Commerce in China. And he is also the Managing Director of Progetto, which is a company located in Beijing. Massimo, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura. Kindly, you should again allow me to share the screen because it's again blocked. And in the same time, I wanted to really thanks all the organizers. As first, the EU SME Centre, which is an entity in my capacity of the European Chamber of Commerce Vice President, as well as directly. I would like also to thank again Sicindustria and the Order of Architects of Sicily, especially Giada and Maria Gabriella, for the kind invitation, and of course the Enterprise European Network, which is a very important platform to connect entities as small and medium enterprise in Europe. A few words about me, as it was mentioned before by Laura. I'm managing partner of Progetto CMR, an Italian design firm, as well as Vice President of the European Chamber of Commerce in China. I moved to China in 2004, and I start my activity here, setting up the local company and the operation, as well as in a few years, I got involved in the European Chamber of Commerce, acting as a vice chairman and chairman in the construction working group, and representing the small medium enterprises and the kids working group in several activities afterwards. Recently, after serving 8 years in the executive committee, I was also confirmed as chairman of the Southwest China chapter of the European Chamber of Commerce, which means the province more to the west, like Sichuan, Chongqing, Yunnan, and Guizhou. On top of that, I had quite few recognition, also a knighthood of the Order of the Star by our President of the Republic, as well as I was involved in a few European cooperation projects with China under the umbrella of the Horizon 2020 and other joint projects. I am visiting professor in the School of Architecture of Beijing Jiatong University, and originally I got my bachelor degree in architecture and then a master in urban planning at the University of Genova. Going to the most important part of the presentation today, I will share with you few findings about the business environment and ecosystem that you have in China. How is it more specifically the construction market, the basic regulation you have to deal with locally, the major trend that we can see in this market, which is full of opportunities, but also of challenges. Some proposal about the way you may enter into this market, wrap up everything in a few conclusions to give you a clear view about what could be your experience in China. Well, first of all, we have to be clear about what is China. So what leads China? Who leads China? As you may know, China is a country where the government play a very important role, and it has a strong stability from this point of view. Someone may say even too much, but this will make the opportunity to plan every things from the economic development and several other things with a medium and long-term view. Especially in China, it's common to have the so-called 5 years plan. The 14th one was just released a couple of months ago, which gives a direction of what could be the development and the activity to be implemented in the next 5 years. In the 5 years plan, there are very important, topics about the development of clusters of city, which can also provide huge opportunities for the architect, for the designer, because the general, plan is to create integrated clusters. We have the so-called Jingji, which is between Tianjin, Beijing, and the Hebei province. Shenyang is a part of this one, and it's planned to be the new, let's say, Pudong nearby Beijing. We have the Yangtze River Delta, which include all the area of Shanghai, the Jiangsu province, and the Zhejiang province. The Great Bay Area is in the south, where we have the Guangdong province, or Guangzhou, so-called Canton, Shenzhen, Macau, Hong Kong. And then one of the latest one was the Chengdu-Chongqing Economic Corridor, so more focused in the west area of China. A very important, target that we found in the 14 5 years plan is about carbon neutrality. As you may know, Europe has a target to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, and China, although start from a condition which is more complicated, has the same target by 2060 to be fully carbon neutral, and especially to reach the peak of 55% by 2030. The so-called dual circulation is the strategy which is focusing on creating a stronger internal market, as well as a stronger internal production in order to be more self-sufficient, also as an answer to the present tension that we have in the, trade, economic, and political relationship with the other part of the world. And very important is also the EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment. It was an agreement signed from the political point of view last December the 30th, and planning to implement a stable view and the rules for the investment, bilateral investment from China to the European Union and vice versa. Going a little bit more into details of all the topic which I mentioned before, I would like to give as first a few figures about what is the present urbanization process we have ongoing in China, because it's something that is really unprecedented as a speed, but also as a size. We had a similar situation before in other Asian countries, as Japan, as Korea, and so on. But what makes the difference in China, it's really the size. In 20 years, the urbanization level in China grew up from 52.6% to 60%. And you can imagine what does it mean if you can compare this data to the 1.4 billion people, which is the Chinese population. So it means that really the number of people living in urbanized area increased by hundreds of millions in the latest year. And it's a target for China to reach 70% in another 5 years' time. The urbanization process, as we said, it's very important process, but it's also a process that, due to its speed and size, has also some, side effect. One of the things that few people know, also I realized it not so many years ago, is about the habitable land in China. only 19% of a huge territory of China is perfectly suitable for people living. And this one can let you understand also in terms of importance of the use of land, of the efficiency in the use of land, how is it relevant for China. And also let you maybe realize why also we have so huge density in the Chinese city. It's not just a matter of all the people want to live in big cities. It's also a matter that the land usable is not so much. Nowadays, we have a per capita GDP for the people, which is just over 11,000 US dollar per year. Again, this is an average comparing on the 1.4 billion people. Meanwhile, we know that the millionaires in China are the largest amount in the world. So there is also always to take in consideration this kind of, difference that we have in China, where we have a large population, but also a very large number of rich people comparing to what we have nowadays. And very important is also the rise of a construction area that, considering the large amount of area, it was increased to almost 4% in just 15 years. This is important because also give us the understanding, especially if we look at the eastern coast of China, where we have the most developed part of the country, where we have Beijing, where we have Shanghai, or the Zhejiang province, and even to the south. We can really compare this part of the country as a developed country as much as we have in the West world, while as much as we move to the inner side, we have different conditions. Before I mentioned the 14th five-year plan, which has as key target relevant with our activity, promote the rural rejuvenation. We have in China still a huge imbalanced development between the rural area and the urbanized one. One of the trends of the government is to really want to have a more balanced development, try to have the people which stay also in the western part of the country, while not just move to the eastern one where we were saying. And so this is linked also to a more coordinated regional development in all the part of China, and also an approach to preserve the nature, the natural environment, which is getting more and more filled by all the people. Another important part was the integration of the so-called New Style Urbanization Plan, which was released for the first time in the year 2014, and was a kind of very innovative document, because this document brought the attention to a more human-centered urban development, where also the final user, the people, were playing a more important role, and there was much more attention to the natural, this year, again, we find, again, reinforce all this kind of topic, especially with a deep attention on the so-called urban regeneration. And so not only the development of new area in China, this is something really typical and different from what we have in Europe, where we don't have empty land to be filled, while in China we saw along the last 10, 20 years the development of new city, new districts from scratch. Now the attention is also to requalify, regenerate the urban area inside the city, especially area which were for industrial site, but the city growing up change also its structure. Some of the previous suburban area nowadays are area with high real estate value, and so it's important to renovate them also in the function, in the activity that will be put inside. I was talking about the huge imbalance and then the critical relationship that we have in some case between the global vision and the local vision. Global, we mean by the developed area, and local by the rural one. So there is, I mean, this kind of globalization in the biggest city, which also created a huge, I mean, problem in terms of really loss of identities of a traditional culture, of the value that people recognize as their own. And so the government policies are more and more trying to bring back some values, some tradition, and linking them with the rural area, linking them then with tourism, but also to new development and economic model which could bring back this kind of tradition. Then we said the environment. The environment is definitely the other issue that we have, and so the speed of urbanization create a problem in the past, create problem for the pollution, for the unplanned also system that was created in some way, and with a smaller case, it's something also similar to what happened maybe in our country along the period after the Second World War. And so today there is the deep attention for the local environment, for the natural one, with also code and rules for the planning and the construction, which and of course, all this, I mean, situation that we mentioned before have also an impact, a strong impact from the social point of view. The Chinese population, again, needed to get back to a life which is more oriented also to individual, to some value, which was lost in this incredible run and with an incredible speed, which was, I mean, the core point along the past. And the government policy wished to have more attention to this one, also in the terms of the people education for the protection of the environment. We have already in several cities implementation about also the waste and how to treat the waste, how people should, I mean, divide the waste. That sounds quite familiar for us, but it was not here locally. And before I mention about the comprehensive agreement on investment, it's a document which was really a game changer because nowadays all 26 of the 27 European Union countries have just a bilateral, I mean, agreement on investment, while there is not a joint one. So this document came to an approval, political approval, just at the end of last year, after almost 7 years of negotiation. And it was very important in order to provide clear, I mean, rules for market access, for level playing field, and for sustainable development, which were definitely welcomed by our companies in order to have more opportunity in China. I will not go into details of every sector, of course, but I want to mention that the construction sector and the environmental services were among those which have a very, very important, I mean, effect in the document, because we can see that, for example, for the construction, where, I mean, cancel several of the restrictions that was in place for the investor in China. There are nowadays a restriction about the by individual investor as well fully owned enterprises. And there were only specific category of investment of project which were allowed it to be fully invested by foreign. Otherwise, they should be done under a joint venture with a local partner. The CAI has the target to remove this restriction, and so to allow in the construction sector a full freedom and openness for investment in this area. The other topic was about level playing field. So same opportunities and duties for the entities. In China, we have a strong imbalance in the relationship and the opportunities that the state-owned enterprises can have comparing with the private company. And when I say private company, I also speak about Chinese private company, and not just the foreign one. So one of the target of the CI is also to rebalance this one and to promote more attention to the subsidies that could be provided to maybe state-owned company. Some more attention to some cases of forced technology transfer, which was a case for few European companies in the past, and also the standard and the authorization which could be, fulfilled, and the level of the transparency in the administrative process was also one of the key points. Last but not least, sustainable development, which is definitely important in order to respect some of the worldwide rules in terms of the labor force. And here we, if we look at the construction sector, of course, we think especially about the site work and the labor force of the site work, as well as some enforcement mechanism very well defined in order to solve a potential dispute that we may have in place. The bad news in this case is that the recent tension between China with US and also with Europe create a stop in the process of the ratification of the comprehensive agreement on investment. European Commission side, the message to China was that until this countermeasure that China applied to some European entities and individuals will be removed, there will be not room for further discussion of the ratification of the comprehensive agreement on investment. And of course, for us who are in China and wish to have, more activity and operation here, we wish that things can get better in order also to be allowed to fully operate with the support of tools like the comprehensive agreement on investment, which can, secure and make safer as well, provide us more opportunities in this market. If we look at the construction sector in China, we can divide it in three main sectors, which are, quite common to our one, but the construction, the services, and the material. But the main difference are related also to the way that the work and the design is implemented. In China, you have a strong separation between the construction and the design of a shell and core building and the decoration inside. It's something that sounds strange for us, especially Italian, when we are used to design the building as an entire entity. While here you always have someone who focus on the architecture design and someone who focus on later on the interior decoration and so on. And this is happen also for the construction company, where you have the companies focus on the shell and core and company focus on the final decoration. The size of this market is definitely huge. We said that, I mean, even if nowadays in China, there are measures which wish to reduce the speculation in the real estate market, then we can, I mean, definitely understand that this market is something that is, I mean, uncomparable as a size, as number of buildings which are created, and you can see over 1.8 billion in order to consider how many buildings and how many materials can be used. Because, I mean, here you can see that over half of the global world production is consumed by China when we talk about this one, the construction. And so it's something we will deepen later, but it's something that gives you really the understanding of how big is it. As I said, the market is changing. We are not in the hottest and crazy development that we had until, let's say, 5 or 6 years ago. We have more attention to limit the speculation, but this is something natural. In some way, I even say that I welcome this kind of development, because this one can create a healthier market where there is much more attention to quality and to, I mean, element where we as a European, as Italian professional can provide an added value. And so in this way, we believe that also the distribution, as I said, of the market is different. I mentioned you before that the eastern part of the country is the more developed one, but we have to understand that also the western part is really growing up very well. And when we talk, for example, about second-tier city as Chengdu, Chongqing, which are in the west, or Nanjing, which is 1 hour by fast train to Shanghai. Well, these cities are really entities which are so, I mean, attractive for us. Because, I mean, if you just think that the GDP of the Guangdong province, is the province which includes Canton and Shenzhen, is the same of Russia, well, you can imagine, I mean, what can last inside even a province. And so in this way, we do understand also the opportunity that we may have. And I mean, the market, so it's so different. Every province is different in the level of development that can have, in the level also of doing business, because we know that, I mean, in China, you have 56 different ethnics. And so 56 different culture, which can, I mean, be faced and deal with is different as well. The way to make business is different. So from this point of view, we have always to pay a deep attention to where we are and how we deal with the different entities and with the different, I mean, counterpart that we deal with. So if we look how is, I mean, organize the market, we have a number which is quite scaring. but again, it shows the huge opportunity that we have. The Western company in the Chinese market counts nowadays only for 1%. And this one really show you how we can be relevant, how we can be relevant from our, I mean, technological advance, the brand image that we can have, and so on. So in the same way, we have to be able to face and solve issue which can be related to some regulation in the access, as I said, to the market, in some business practices which are related to the so-called guanxi, which means relationship, which means the way to make business, which are different from our one. Again, we have area which are more developed, where, I mean, the common way, the Western way to make business is welcome, where also the Western advantages in terms of quality, innovative product are better received, and area where this kind of added value is still in a process of learning and understanding by the local, I mean, developer, investor, and even people as a final user and consumer. On top of this, of course, there is a price competition. And as a matter of fact, we can't be competitive on the large scale. We can be competitive on the project of the, let's say, middle level. We have to look to something which is for higher, I mean, market, because it's very looking for something better than the local products and design and so on. So this is the market share that we should look for. In this slide, you find a short representation of the main entities that we face and we deal with in terms of ministries, in terms of also entities for the site work activity. The main entity we deal with is the so-called Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development. Previously, it was easily called the Ministry of Construction. And the other important, I mean, entity more recently is also the Ministry of the Land and Natural Resources, because it was getting in charge of the management in some way of the land. As we said, it's very important to manage it in an efficient way. Then, of course, the Ministry of Transportation for all the big infrastructure. The National Development and Reform Commission is a kind of a super ministry which gives the main direction for the policy of the development of China. Ministry of Environmental Protection recently got a lot of importance to implement all the new rules for the environmental protection. And last but not least, the administration for the work safety, because it helps really to manage the site work. Then, I mean, on the management of the site work, we should do a seminar of another few hours, but today we shifted. The real estate, as every country, is a driver in the economy, and also is one of the most interesting part where, I mean, all the players try to get involved and they got a really huge return. It was very common in the past that every large company created his own real estate division to develop properties, because it was really an El Dorado where everything was built up, was able to be sold out with a really huge return. And I mentioned that this one created really an inflation, created a risk for even an asset bubbles. And so the government reducing the financial support by the banks and asking to the developers to get back their loan in a faster way. The problem was even and is still even bigger, because the main way for the municipality to get finance was by selling land. And so it was really simple to reach their own budget, just selling piece of land without a well-structured, a well-planned system of taxation of revenue and cost, which was, more healthier, and could help to a better development. Now the process is ongoing, and so it's a critical process, which brought to the cleaning up process of the market. Many real estate companies are dead because they were not efficiently working. There are more and more real estate companies which are financed by the government in order, again, to keep a control on the speculation related to this sector, because it's definitely one of the aspects that is more critical for China. It's critical because it has a social impact. The value of the apartment, the price of the apartment is going up. Less and less people are able to buy their first house, and it's truly a social problem, because when a man is looking for his wife, the first things he needs to have is really an asset of his own, flat. It's something which can let you smile, but in a society like China, is an issue. And when you have a flat in Shanghai, in Beijing, even not so luxury one, but with a price of, let's say, at least 5,000 euros per square meter, well, it's not so easy to be able to buy a property. And this is really something related, again, to a middle level of people, and not to the richest one, because richest one we reach, point which are much, much higher. So in this regard, again, we have, a small amount of people in China which own a large amount of property, while much more larger population is struggling to get the first house. So the Chinese government launched several programs for social housing. Now is launching also program for so-called long-term rent, to allow to people to get a kind of property rights on their house, but paying amount with a control, interest and so on, and giving more relaxed to this kind of social issue. And the green building policy are very important for us as opportunities. In the last years, China developed its own system for green building. At the beginning, it was called 3 stars. Now it's implemented into 4-star system. It's a little bit different as approach from the well-known, international standard like LEED or BREEAM and so on. But it's useful anyway to give some kind of guidelines, some kind of attention to the way that the buildings are done and built. It's not perfect, and the legislature are aware about this one, and that's why it's keep on improving, updating, and developing. First of all, because since 1 year ago, most of the building got the green label for the design, but not for the final result of the construction. And this one was a trick used by the developer in order to enjoy the advantages of having a green building, advantages which are in terms of tax reduction, whether there are more GFA which could be built. But then at the end of the day, the final result was different. So again, the new four-star system also implements three restrictions about the final building result and not just the design stage. The number of green buildings is increasing in a very incredible way. We had especially this situation for the public building, and then later on for the commercial building. This is because especially, I mean, our buildings where the owners will manage and will use the building for the long term, and so they pay even more attention to the energy saving, to easy maintenance, and to the quality of the buildings. While it was not so applied to the residential one, because in such case, the developer, as far as he sell out the property, he doesn't have any more liability. And one of the issues nowadays in China is that you have an electricity with a very low cost. So people is not yet educated to preserve the use of electricity or even to save it because it's expensive. And on the other side, also, if we look at the heating system, especially in the north part of China, you have most of the cases, you have a central heating system at district level. So you even don't control the temperature inside your own building because you just pay a flat amount for the heating without any other thing. So the effect is that in many cases, even in cities as Beijing, which has a cold winter, you have maybe 10 degrees below zero outside, but in your home you have a 26 or 27 degree, and you just wear short and t-shirt with the effect also in terms of CO2 emission and creation that you can easily understand. About the building permit, again, the regulation is changing in order to control the speculation and to have a more sustainable development, which is not just related to the enormous amount of residential building, which are the interest of the developer, rather than having more balance with commercial and then the light industrial building, which are looked for the development of an economic system, which is not just a real estate bubble for residential. So going to the fourth section, the so-called major trend of China, we can see this chart which collect together what are the three key elements as labor efficiency, energy efficiency, and design quality, with the matrix which interact them together with some other aspects which are very relevant and which have really a strong interaction between each other. Again, we have to look at them keeping in mind the difference that we have in China from the society of China, from the way China is organized, and also the way in which the business is developing here. So the so-called growth driver are the major force that we can see summing up in this slide. I show you before about the continuous and very huge, I mean, process of urbanization, which is very important, which create a huge growth of the GDP, both for the infrastructure project as well for the, I mean, urban development that have. But in the same way, the demographic of China, it was really strongly affected by the so-called one-child policy. Until a few years ago, apart from few exceptions, families were allowed just to have one child, or they could have the right to have the second one, paying a kind of special tax. And this one creates an effect that we can see nowadays, where the population is getting older, is aging, and this one, of course, in the medium term, cannot be changed, even if now the one-child policy, even a few years ago, is no more in place. But so create a number of decreasing labor force, of unskilled work, of increasing elderly population with matter of, I mean, creating proper, I mean, facility to host them and to take care of them. The one-child policy, again, I said, was a tool which was necessary to give to China this very fast growing speed, but has also this kind of side effect. And it's not easy even nowadays to change the people minds. Nowadays, as I said, the family can have more than one child, but most of family keep on the trend of having only one child, because they care about the education, they care about giving everything they can. And so especially for the middle income families, having one child with such expectation is already enough and too expensive. And so the matter of the aging population will be not easily solved, and should be solved by also an increasing of the qualification of the individual worker in order to be able to cover a larger amount of population and by his work and the creation of GDP. And so this one also is related to the economic growth that we said before, economic growth which led a larger number of people to the so-called middle income class, but this middle income class is still struggling to keep the speed and the rate of growth in terms also of salary, of income, with the increasing cost that you have in cities as Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, which are as much as expensive, or even in some cases more expensive than the biggest, I mean, worldwide capital city. And so it's really challenging for some families, and there are already cases of families which may relocate again to inner part of China, which are less developed, but which have a lower cost of life, and which can have also opportunities for them to develop to a new stage. And so if we look to the expansion also of the real estate market in terms of the regulation, as I said, the going green will be very important. The increase also of quality in the building and in the design will be a must. And so these are all keywords that we should keep under attention for our development of our strategies for China. The social aspect related to demographic I mentioned before, because it's very important to be mentioned. Chinese society was quite similar to our society of the 50s, the 60s, where we were also used to keep our elderly people at home. But then, with the development as happened to us, with having in a family both people working, we how to say, find some other option for taking care of our elderly people. And this one is happening also in China. Another, I mean, important social aspect is related to the growing divorce rate, which is also very important. And last but not least, I would say also for the middle high income family, the potential, I mean, real estate bubble will be linked also with the fact that in some family you can have one, I mean, asset capital of a family, which may be of a 2-flat apartment. Another one with another 2, they get married and they get 4 properties. And they may have the willing to, I mean, don't own all the 4 because they said, okay, later on we will have just 1 child. So why we want to take all and put them in the market? As you can understand, this one can potentially create a huge problem because the price will drop. And so it's something that nowadays is also a little bit under control to, again, namely continue to show to people that the property price is increasing. So you let people keep the property under the assumption that his value is increasing, and to avoid this kind of situation where you could have really a huge problem. The other indicators are related to labor efficiency. I mentioned before that the number of people in the construction sector is increasing as in terms of number, but not in terms of qualified one. And this is a problem because more and more the construction is not as was in the past, where we had the, I mean, seasonal worker, which used to work in the summer in the farmland and in the winter as a building worker. But nowadays also, because of the quality of the building, the quality of the material, of the equipment which are installed are higher, you need more qualified, I mean, worker. And so it's a matter of fact that, I mean, also this social imbalance is changing. It's changing because few of them will upgrade, and especially in the next generation, while the present one are living a very complicated situation. The energy efficiency is, again, another main trend. The heating system account in China is really 30% of the overall energy demand of China. And it increased a lot along the last 40 years when almost became almost 4 times. So you can see will be to have the right management of the heating system in order to decrease the demand and then decrease also the pollution that you can create. And what we are working, what also the government is working, both on the heating as well on the air conditioning system, is to create and to promote a solution which are more decentralized, which can allow to people to have more control, and in the same time to have a building, sorry, which are better performing from the energy point of view. And so this one is related to windows, is related to the wall package, is related to all the materials that are included in the building system. And this is something that obviously has happened also to us in Italy, in Europe, is at the beginning more implemented at the scale of the public building, and then later on to the, let's say, commercial building, both for public activity as retail, office, and hotel, and also residential one. Last but not least, the design and the quality. So what we see nowadays, it's really much more attention to the products that people buy. And when I mean product, I mean also the entire apartment, because in many cases, developers provide solution which include also the full interior decoration and even the furniture. And so when people have a better income, they really also want to have a better place to live, because for the Chinese as well, very close to our culture, your home is in some way the mirror of your level in the community, in the class, and so how you can live, how you create things which can be nice for yourself and can be shown even to others. In the same time, we can see also, especially in the more developed area, much more appreciation towards the new trend, more contemporary style of decoration. In the past, when more classical, rich of decoration style were seen as more luxury. Luckily, we see a rebalance also in this one, which is important. And so the customer, when they go to buy houses, they are now getting better educated in terms of evaluating not just the location of the building as key factor when they buy a property, but also evaluating the materials, the finishes, which are made, which the building is made on. Because I didn't mention before, I gave it for granted, but maybe it's not. In China, usually you have for the residential building a kind of concession of use, as you have in the UK, and this one lasts for 70 years from the time when the developer got the land. This kind of concession then can be renewed, and now it's becoming the hot time when this kind of some of these concessions are close to the 70-year target, and officially there is not yet a clear answer about how will be renewed and how much it will cost. But this is again other topic for long discussion. What is I mean important and interesting for us is the attention on the quality, is the attention on the trend in design, in international trend, which more and more people are caring about. I can mention the example of the Salone del Mobile exhibition, which was already for 3 years, if I'm not wrong, in Shanghai. And every year have more and more visitors, which really appreciate the design and the quality of our furniture and our products. So going to the fifth section, which are the opportunities for the companies as well as the professional. There is a statistic which is quite interesting, and it mentioned that in Italy we have more or less one architect every 414 inhabitants. While in China, we have one architect every 40,000 inhabitants. So this is already a clear, data which can let you understand how is in balance the ratio between the two countries. In one country, maybe we have too many, but in one country, we have still, the needs request for qualified architects, which are very, very important. And the other point is very important, that is China is really still in a huge economic development. Of course, the ratio of the development will be not double digit as before, even if I do believe this year will be, but due to the, situation we had last year with the COVID. But if we even consider a rate of 6% or something like that, it's an impressive number if we compare to the overall GDP. So we have opportunity, but we have to be aware how to approach those opportunities. So when we want to enter in China, we have to be prepared for this one. So we have to be ready with a business model. We have to be ready to have a critical mass of potential, client and customer. With a brand name, we have to know the regulation. We have to have a team of professionals which are ready to operate in this country, which again is amazing and also scary for the way to change. As soon as you think to have find the right, market approach solution or share and so on, you have to think about already the next one, because the market is so competitive and change a lot. So it should make a plan with a really long-term goal and also make a cash flow forecast which allow you to be stable in your activity. In the same time, if you are able to create this business model, you can quickly replicate it around China in a way can create a really incredible return for you. In the same time, you should be able to replicate it as business model, not a project, don't get me wrong, in a quick way. Quick way because again, you will have eyes on you, and everyone will try to do something even similar to what you did, or even try to in some way approach. You don't have to think it's always wrong, because maybe it's much more suitable for this market. And so at the end of the day, the customer may be happy also on this one. So in China, from the Chinese culture, there is an approach of the so-called trial and error. So learn from your mistake and keep on improving, rather than keep on meditating and try to find the best solution before you go ahead. And this trial and error system is a way also the way also Chinese approach when we talk about design to copying something. For them, copying is a process to digest something and then try to do it in a better way. For us, is a totally different approach. I mentioned before, we have to be clear on what is our target in terms of market share. The so-called mass market is not something that we should look at, because it's not competitive market. It's not where we could, put our better effort. We have to work on a niche market, which is anyway very huge. and where we can, I mean, have a right understanding and promotion of our know-how. And also we can also have a kind of protection of this one, because as I said, it's very important to create a brand awareness, but it's also very important to protect our IP or our new idea. And so in this way, we have to be able also to face the so-called price war that we could get. But we can win it when we provide something different from the others. Again, we don't have to care about potential client which will go to someone which provides something similar at cheaper price, as far as we are sure that our product, our project, our design is really innovative. This is very important because clients are willing to pay premium prices, but they want to be ensured about the reliability, the quality, the branding, and the innovative solution that you can provide to them. Other key elements I mentioned before are the design and quality and energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is related to the target of the government to, I mean, increase the number of the green building. And what we had along the last year is really impressive. If we think that until 12 years ago, we even don't have a clear standard for the green building on China, as well as the understanding of the so-called TCO, the total cost of ownership by the customer, which buy an apartment, which buy a building. So they are now more and more aware of the added value of this one. And so when we are able to provide the solution from design of technical equipment and system, it will be definitely welcome by them. And it will be welcome, again, both in the design, but also in the application of equipment and materials. So this is something that also you could think about synergies with the supplier, with the equipment supplier, in order to provide more and more integrated solution. This is, again, one of the winning points that you may have, because Chinese, both, I mean, professional players as developers, as well individuals, they are concerned of getting a service which is related only to part of what is their need. And so they are concerned that maybe your design will be not implemented in the best way by the local workers, or the materials or the equipment that you suggest to buy are not installed in the right way. So as much as you can be able to give an integrated, a comprehensive answer to their needs, as much as you are more competitive on this one. Well, now, again, go back to the challenges. The challenges, I mentioned here a book which was written in 2005 by Maria Weber. And the title was "China is Not for Everyone." And even 10 years later, two dear friends, Cristiano Barbatelli and Renzo Cavalieri, published a book which said, again, China is not yet for everyone. And so in the construction sector, there are challenges which are really similar in some way to all the other sectors, related to the local culture, related to the really strong prevalence of the Chinese company, especially state-owned company, and also related to maybe a wrong approach that we do to the market, and so to the let's say, specific area that we are trying to approach. And I sum up this kind of challenge in this chart that you have here below, where you can see the main one, which are related to risk management, to the timing when you are getting to the market you want to get, to the potential partner that you may have, as well as the business model that you are willing to implement. If we look to the risk management, of course, the government regulation is one of the key points. We have to be aware that the regulation in China as a framework is in continuous evolution. I mean, we have amendment time by time, and this one can create opportunities or can, I mean, destroy a business model. And so it's important to look at the document, as I mentioned before, the 14 5-year plan and so on, to have a vision about the roadmap, about the path that the country is going to take, because at the end of the day, it will be that one. So this is an advantage because it gives you the direction. In the same time, you have to be ready with a countermeasure to new regulation or to even different implementation at the local level of a regulation that you can have in one part of China or in another. The intellectual property, I mean, protection is very, very important, especially in the design, where we know that it's not easy to remark if there is a copy, because just changing maybe a few details who copy your design can avoid this one. But luckily, there are also entities like the China IP SME Help Desk, which is in Beijing and which is closely related to the SME Centre, which can help you to give some deadline in advance, and then maybe even in the unfortunate case you have issue to assist you for this one. Of course, I mean, basic, advices are the advices related to the registration of your trademark, registration of your key element in the design, which should be done really as fast as you can, because you have to know that the first comer will have the right to use it. It means that if someone saw it around and go to register before you, he will have the right on this one instead of you. So the price competition, again, you should be smart, you should play on it, you should avoid to get in the competition with the mass market. You should find your right, angle and your right niche where you can develop it in a proper way. Timing is also important because I mentioned before, in China, things change very quickly. One of the advantages of China is to be very fast on go-to-market solution. And so you should be aware about when is the right time for you to get into the market, when the so-called S-curve is growing up, but is just at the beginning of the growth, is not already on the top. Otherwise, it could be too late, and maybe you needed to find other successful factor to be there. So in some cases, you should not get in too early, but on the other side, you should get, as early as possible to enjoy the advantage of being unique and the advantage of being, recognized as a premium brand when the trend you are promoting is commonly recognized by everybody. And I mean, also the business model is something that should be deeply studied and localized. I mean, not always the same business model we apply in Europe can be successful in China. And so it's something that we have to analyze with the support maybe of consultant in a way to be, I mean, successful. Why I mention about sometimes the support of the consultant or the support of entities as the SME Center or as an organization, as in this case, the save time means also save money, avoid to make mistake, and be more successful rather than make your own mistake by your own and then lose time and money. So, and the correct business model should be really a mix, the right recipe between the product you are offering, price, sales channel, promotion that you did. And so it's very, very complicated job to mix all of them together and be able to get into the market. And again, don't forget about the importance of having, I mean, people, high talented local people. You are bringing design, you are bringing Italian quality, you are bringing Italian ideas, but you have anyway to face with local rules, local code and regulation. And so you can't expect to learn all of them. You should have a staff or a partner which knows them, and you should have a partner which is enough open-minded to be able to find the way to match the local regulation with your design. Otherwise, if your local partner is a little bit, allow me to say, lazy or easygoing, he will try just to keep the easiest part of your design and not try to find innovative solution to implement it as well as to follow the local regulation. So you have really to do your homework alone or together with someone. You have to make a really a very in-depth assessment about how to build up your business model. Starting really from the understanding of who is China and who are you and what is really then the added value that you can bring to that market. If you are one among the many, well, it will be hard. Of course, you can survive because the market is so big, but if you want to be a real winner, you should be able to bring something new. You should be able to be relevant for this market. And also, it's important to understand what's your strategy, because you may look just for a short-term experience, or you look for really consolidating the market for a long term. And this is I mean, have a big influence and difference in the development of your, I mean, business model. So to understand this kind of topic, to ask to yourself this kind of question, to ask to yourself really what you want to do, to be aware how it's changing and maturing. So the market of today could be not the same of tomorrow. And this one means that you will be maybe outdated tomorrow. You will have to consider really how to price your market, which are the target customer for your products and for your activity. And if you need a local partner or not, and if you need it, which kind is it? Which is the ideal profile? What's the interest of your partner in order to understand if there is a match? Do you need to have people locally, or you can work remotely? This is also another very important point in order to define the structure, how you can protect your IP right from competitors, or in some cases, even at the beginning from your partner, if you have to build up a trust, a trustful relationship with peer. And how can even develop and grow up your business if it's successful? Meanwhile, what could be the plan B? What could be the alternative if your supposed business model it's not successful? Today, more than ever, the Chinese market is really competitive, and many real estate companies develop their own, design department, and so they look really for the world leaders in terms of companies which can cooperate with in order to have in some cases branding, but also new impact. So the middle level, it's for the middle level client. So if you want to work with client with a good, reputation, which are willing to pay you well, which are really able to understand your added value, you should be really a leader in your specific niche. Otherwise, you should look for the middle level one with all the potential risk that we were saying. The competition is tough. I said the local state-owned company, even design institute, enjoy privilege that they can have even towards the Chinese private company of the relationship with client in getting funding from the bank and in be able to, having a longer period for the payment, which is really different from the others. As well as in China, it's very complicated to get the qualification, especially for the small, medium companies. And so the qualification, which means how to be able to follow the design process from the concept design, the schematic design, and the detailed design, which here is usually called the construction drawings, which require a chop, a stamp, a qualification by the company, which has several, requirements. And this is also important because in such case, you have to cooperate with design companies, which can have, different understanding, different way to work comparing to your one. Often, when you are in cooperation for some project with a local design company, especially if you are not based in China, the design company is the party B of the contract. So it means that they will get paid by the client and then they will pay you. And this is also a kind of a problem that you can have sometimes in order to, again, get paid at home and so on. Again, later on, we will see the potential way of entering to the market, and this is something we should be really considered. The residential market in terms of number of built area, it's so huge. But again, in this case, we have to understand that the huge number are related to the standard apartment, where maybe your service is just requested for maybe the facade design, for something which is a kind of makeup of a building and not a real design, because the layout follows strict, market standard, which are not usual for us, and so it's not easy. Even, build up a facade of building when they require maybe Italian style in a building which is 100 meters high, it's not so easy. So again, also in this one, it's important to understand what the niche market and what could be the right things to be done. The recent slowdown of the market related to the process to limit the speculation may be a disadvantage. already over 2 billion people, while they have only 1.4 billion people. So this one means that now on, people will also start to look with more attention to what is the quality. So let me check also the timing. I think we are quite aligned. What are the way to enter into the market? I recognize here 4 main ways, which are based on the experience that you can have. So the first way is a WOFI. You set up a company locally, a company which is fully owned by yourself as a foreign entity, and so you are totally independent. You could also localize in partnership with a design institute. You can make a joint venture with them, or you can just maybe having a partnership on some specific project with them. On the other side, you can also remotely work from Italy in partnership with the local. In this case, you will save some cost, but as we said before, you will have maybe issue on getting paid. Or you can remotely work with the support of some agent, someone who is locally based and works to find job opportunities for you. And of course, I mean, I didn't mention here, but it's obvious, you can also enter into the market by the support of organization as the Order of the Architect, which may work as collector, as a cluster, to put together the critical mass of architect, of designer, of supplier, to get into the market in a kind of, let's say, consortium, allow me to say, of team, in order to provide a solution which can be suitable for everybody. The design tender are very important tools, but be aware that the large international tenders are an opportunity just for the elite club. There are tenders with a huge amount of a refund, but these tenders are really tenders where all the biggest firms in the world work on. The local tenders are really a jungle, and you should be able to move in this jungle in terms of timing issue, in terms of condition about the use of the design. In many cases, when you submit your design, it's written in the tender document very found. And so you should also look about the condition of the payment refund, because in some cases, one of the conditions is after the result of the tender, but without the terms for the result of the tender. This one means that if no future result is released, you will never get paid. The one issue we said before as a kind of a relationship with the party A of the tender, as well as a safe agreement with the local partner, especially when you are not too close to him, is important to be reliable. As local, I mean case for company which localize over there, Progetto CMR may be a case. We arrived in China as first in 2002. We set up our wholly owned foreign enterprise in 3 years' time. 2 years, let's say, it was the experiencing time, and 1 year to set up the company. Now the timing is much faster. Then we are focusing on the local market. 95% of our clients are local. We plan over 200 square kilometers of area and concretely build up over 3 million of square meters. On the other side, we are, I mean, among the top 100 in the world. We are number 78, 76, if I'm not wrong. But what I always repeat to my colleague in Italy, if we are really a leader in the Italian European market, here in China, we are just number 78. because here in China, we face the competition of all the largest companies in the world. And so this is really an issue that we have to face. The other way I say that it's to have a local partner, but you have to be really aware about them. You have to know very well them. You have to make a kind of due diligence to understand also his strong and weak point, to understanding your and his goals for the long term, and to have an alignment on this interest. And since this discussion may take time and so on, it's better if you work also on different options in terms of a potential partner. And really don't be shy to really go deeper and evaluate deeper what is the partner, I mean, background and the information. I said are very important. So we have to adapt ourselves to the market. We have to be aware that our model could be not always the same in our relationship. And so this is very important also in the negotiation with partner as well with client. And we should always keep in mind this cultural gap. And also when we discuss with a potential partner, we should be aware of this process of implementation and follow-up, which will take time and which will be, I mean, very important to be also in some way supported by local, I mean, consultant. This chart is a summing up of the process that I said. So don't forget about making a deeper market research, making an analysis of who you are, of your business model, where you want to go, and then you can go ahead in the other implementation. Because without the fundamental first phases, it's later it will be very difficult to be successful. I will not spend much time on this one. These are just example of a project which are done here in China by our company. This is in Tianjin, in the in the Italian concession. In Tianjin is the only new building. It's interesting because it was a tender done only by Italian company in 2004. And the client, which was the municipality, want to have Italian elements. And so our way to bring Italian elements was by the use of Italian typological characteristic. But their way was to have a dome, to have a round shape arc and so on. So after a lot of revision, we have to accept some of their vision as well as to keep some of our one. This is a large project in the northeast of China, near to the border with North Korea. It's a traditional village where we implement, I mean, new technology to make a smart village with the use of local materials. In some case, in some building, also the use of traditional construction practices. But again, without copying the past, using a contemporary design style. And in this case, the client was able to understand and follow up on this one. Here we are in Chongqing, the so-called the Shantou Big Data Valley. Center, hotel, offices, and the training center. This is a case of a Sino-Europe project focused on agriculture, development of a rural area in Zhejiang, Jiangsu province. You can see in this part, it was interesting because we have really to connect the existing city with the farmland area. And so to create a belt that could really connect them. As well, the farmland area was used for basic agriculture, research center, and tourism. This is one of the latest projects, is in Chengdu, in the so-called Sin-Italian Cultural Innovation District. It's a project focused on the use of Italian element, especially for the culture, but again, facing also the needs, as you can see, of a Chinese density for the residential building. Last but not least, a project of 4.5 square kilometer area is a project which reached the carbon neutrality target. We developed it a couple of months ago, again, to promote something where Italian technology design together with the industry can be advanced to help China to reach their target that we mentioned before. So going to a conclusion, because I already ran out of my time, again, the government is controlling the market, is controlling its development, but the real estate market is still and will be always a key driver in the economy. So the opportunity will not lack, but the Chinese company are really the strongest player in many areas. You have to find your niche market. You have to find where you can be different. You have to find also the way to be able to change yourself in a way to be adaptable, to be flexible to the market, and to be able to provide continuous opportunities to answer the question of the market in terms of quality, energy saving, and sophisticated design. Good planning, timing, and effective choice of your business partner are key elements. You should understand why you have to go to China, because you have a strong, wonderland where you can land and be successful in any case. You have to be well prepared with your plan, and also prepared to invest to have a return in a reasonable period of time. The positioning is too important to be successful. The position is too important to be relevant, and to find your niche market. To conclude, I do believe that our architects are really among the best, or can say the best, for their ability, for their skill, for the also ability to be really a driver for all the supply chain, all the other entities involved in the design and the skill. But again, we are playing in the most competitive market. We are playing a market where there are all the worldwide players, the largest company, the small, medium one, and where the locals are getting more and more and more sophisticated, even hiring foreign architects in order to get, let's say, a foreign glamour for themselves. And with this one, I ended my presentation. I wish you find it interesting. And I was able even still to save a little bit of time for your question or your any clarification you may need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Massimo, for this insightful presentation. From my side, that I'm not an expert into the field, I have written some notes you made that I found extremely interesting. The first of them is 19% of the land only is habitable, and that is why urbanization is so important. This is a quite important statement when it comes to China, considering how big the country is. And also the importance of the green building regulation, how companies should keep an eye on it in order to be able to enjoy tax breaks and financial support from the government. There have been some questions. I'm gonna read them through, and we will appreciate, Massimo, if possible, if you can give answer to them. Which are the main areas or cities where companies should be focused on the next year in China?
Well, I mean, again, the answer is not a unique answer. Depends on who you are and what are you looking for. That is the point. If you are, I mean, if you're looking for, again, a traditional market like on the coastal area, but you have more competition. If you look for something which is still growing and developing, and so where you could maybe find the chance to settle down and creating your own structure, awareness and branding, you have to go to the more developing areas, so more to the west part of China. So it's hard to say if you, again, don't understand what you're looking for.
I see, makes sense. The next question will be, are the Chinese guilds of architects similar to the European ones, or is it structured in a different way?
Guilds of architects, sorry, this one I didn't get the meaning.
So for instance, I think in Italian is the Ordine. So it's
okay. Okay. Well, I mean, here it's a little bit different because I mean, you have a different level for the architects, different grade. So the qualification is from the level D, which is the lowest one. Now almost no one even have the D, from the C to the A. The A one is the highest one. And you have to make some exam time by time to reach such level. And then the companies are organized in a way that they also have a B qualification to operate. And to have a different qualification, you need to have a certain number of architects with such qualification. So as individual, it's hard to operate because you can operate only on project of a limited scale, because even if you have a Class A qualification, but you wanna stamp your drawing, you cannot, because it's something that requires to have a large institute of design in the back. So this is the biggest difference. Here, we work more, say, in an Italian way with società di ingegneria rather than individual professional which chop the drawings.
Thank you very much. When we talk about main competitors from Western countries operating in China, obviously Italians are on the top of that list, but which other countries might be a competitor for Italians in China?
Before I mention you, we have everyone here, everyone, really. I had a discussion because a month ago, we were updating the promotional video of my company, and my colleague in Milan said, come on, we are the only Italian in the top 100 in the world, and blah, blah, blah. I said, look, among the top 100 in the world, how many are active in Italy? I said, I assume not more than 5. In Europe, maybe not more than 20. In China, I have all the 100 here around me. And so we have really everybody who is competitive with us. So again, we have the largest company as KPF, SOM, Ecom, EDAS, which get the largest bunch of market. But we have also the German company, which are middle-sized or large and so on. So we have really everybody playing this market. That's why I said before, really as a rule, you should find your strong proposition and positioning if you want to be really successful. If you want to survive and you said, I mean, bored, tired of Italy, I want to have a new experience of China. Of course, as individual, You can come, you can set up your small studio, or you can cooperate with some local, but it's something in a different way from having really a well-structured entity.
Thank you very much, Massimo. This is a funny one. Is it true that China has restricted ugly buildings and skyscrapers that are taller than 500 meters?
Well, I mean, there are, let's say this way, a few years ago, President Xi said we should not have any more weird building, and he was referring to building as the CCTV tower or a few other buildings built up around China, which were not representing in some way anything rather than the ego of a designer. And even they were playing in some way to create a solution which were not effective from a cost return point of view, just again to have something that he defined weird. So I assume this question is related to this one. So there is more attention than before to also the building shape, to building which are, again, environmental friendly, which are not just the expression of something which should attract your attention for just for the purpose of a strange shape. There are different approaches nowadays which are more conservative from a certain point of view.
Thanks, Maximo. I have a personal question, since it seems that nobody else asked questions in the Q&A. We have 3 more minutes, so if any of the participants are wondering whether they can answer a question, ask a question to Maximo, this is the moment. In the meantime, do you or can you mention some of the most Chinese architectural offices, just to have a reference for the audience?
Sorry, say again, do you?
Chinese architectural offices in China. So to say, which could be their Chinese competitors that we consider when entering the market?
Well, there are several. One of the most famous is Mayun. They even have an office in Italy. So they are developing really all over the world, and not just in China. And I have to say they do a very, how to say, contemporary and attractive design. And I even visit their office a few times, and the director of operation is a friend of mine, a colleague. She's a lady, and she said really she's working there already maybe 5 years. And she said, look, Massimo, I don't know how long I could keep on working here. Mr. Ma wanted me to stay, but I told him he should change my position, because the working, I mean, stress and rhythm are something really unbelievable from a certain point of view. That's why also they have a very huge turnover of staff, and what they implement is that as soon as you reach maybe a level, let's say, of senior architect, you work in a different, I mean, way and stressful position. Otherwise, you know, in China, still timing is an issue, and competition is very strong. Chinese people in every sector, they grow up with understanding that they are one among 1.4 billion. So there is no opportunity, there are no opportunities for everybody. So you should be fast, quick, and effective.
Yes, indeed they are. Well, I think we are running out of time. For those interested in learning more about the Chinese market, we are considering the possibility of organizing a trade mission into China for the sector. If you want to get more information on that or to express your interest, please reach out to Giada Platania from Sicindustria. She will be very happy to share more information and move on with the organization. She has just shared her contact details on the chat. From my side, one more thing to share is that once you close the chat, you're going to be invited to complete a survey. This is the satisfaction survey from the EU SME Centre that, apart from helping us to evaluate your level of interest in this workshop, it's going to ask you as well which other topics you would like to learn about related to China. And this is extremely useful for us because it helps us to continue developing interesting content for you. So thank you very much, Massimo, for making yourself available today. We know you're a very busy businessman, and we really appreciate this cooperation today.
It's my pleasure. And again, I want to thank all the organizers, SME Centre, Sicindustria, and the Order of the Architect of Palermo, the European Network Enterprise, and all the people in the audience. And I wish they find the presentation interesting and useful. I provided my reference, so if you want to contact me, please feel free to contact me. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much also to Sicindustria and the Guild of Architects of Palermo. And see you next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.